What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access Entertainment. As always, please hit that subscribe button. It's right down there and it's free. That enables us to keep coming to you guys as often as possible with as many interviews as possible. So please hit that subscribe button, like our content, share it, talk about it, be about it, each one, teach one. We appreciate your guys' support and getting us this far. And of course, people always ask me, Soren, when are you putting your interviews up on a podcast? So now they are. Wherever you listen to your podcast, you can check us out. So please do, worldwide, and thanks to Pantheon Podcast for that. So now, today, we have the honor and the privilege of being joined by somebody I've been admiring from afar for many, many moons, DJ Too Tuff from the Tuff Crew. Thank you for coming through, sir.
Oh, what's going on, Soren? I'm very happy to be here, bro.
Yes, it's an honor and a privilege, man. And you guys and you have put out a lot of great material, so we're going to touch on a lot of that today. And I know you got some exciting new ventures also going on, but let's take it back, because Tuff Crew, I think, is one of those groups that did a lot of great work, put in a lot of great music, did a lot of touring, big stuff, but also isn't often mentioned. So let's get a little bit of the history before we get into some of the music. So break down how you met each of the members and how you guys actually formed the Tuff Crew.
Well, I grew up in Philadelphia in an area known as Northern Liberties, basically Lower Kensington. Kensington was the area where the drug networks, where the drug corners were at. It was called the Badlands. That name was more recently given, Badlands. But across the street from my house was this little park called Hart Park. And they used to have breakdance battles in there. This is like 1982, 83. From my eyes, I'm going to tell you that I was a little kid because I was looking at it with such amazement, to see them carrying linoleum and stuff in there, and they were setting up, 1200s. And that's where I first got a glimpse of Tuff Crew. It was a neighborhood dude that would become my best friend all of my life. His name was Ice Dog. And he was like the top breaker with this group called SCR, Street City Rockers. And I used to go over there and watch them through the gate, looking at the stuff that's going on in there, and, wish one day maybe I could find a way to be part of that. So I was going to St. Joe's Prep. It was all boys prep school. So I used to come home on the bus with my tie and penny loafers and stuff. And then I would go up into my third floor room and become, this scratch DJ. I wanted to be a scratch DJ more than anything. I saw a TV show called Graffiti Rock. And on that show, Jam Master Jay was scratching live, like with Run-DMC. They were on stage and he could tell he was doing the cuts live. And I was just amazed by that. I had a really good friend of mine named Yo-Yo who was murdered in 1997. He taught me everything there was to know about scratching, how to do it, what a 1200 was, how to set up the turntables. Because I scratch handicapped, which means both on the right side, mixer on the left. Premier does it, a couple other DJs do it. They call it handicap, but they've since learned that it's not a handicap for me. So back to the Tuff Crew thing, I would always look in there and there was these breakdance battles going on. So one day we met this dude that pulled up in a limo, and his name was Tony Mitchell. And he said he was putting together a rap group, and he had LA Kid and Tone Love with him, and I'd never seen them before. We were a little bit we didn't believe him. So we exchanged numbers and we began to get together. This is Ice Dog, LA Kid, Tone Love, and myself. And there was another DJ named Shiver. So in the beginning, I wasn't the original DJ. They already had a DJ. There was another DJ before him too. So it's been a long line of me, maneuvering my way through the ranks to actually become the detonator, The first show that I did after becoming a member of Tuff Crew was at the Philadelphia Spectrum, New York versus Philly battle. I got to see Cutmaster D.C, transform while he was palming a basketball. He battled Cash Money. Steady B was there. I know you recently did the interview with Tap Money. Great memories. LL Cool J. So meeting Tuff Crew, it was like, overnight. I rubbed the bottle and the genie came out and I was the DJ for Tuff Crew, and it's been a great ride ever since, man. Very, very grateful.
Okay. So being at the park and seeing the B-boys and all the other stuff going on, obviously rap was big at the time in this early 80s era. Also were the DJs. So compared to the other elements of hip hop, what what do you think it was about DJing that made you so intrigued?
As I said, I went to the prep. Before I got to the prep, I went to one of my classmates' houses in South Philly, and he had two SB100 belt drive turntables set up. And he said he was a DJ. You know, I immediately got this like jealous line down my back. Like, I don't know where I was like, he's a DJ. You know, he was kind of overweight. You know, he didn't have the DJ look. Me thinking DJ, well, I could do that, you know? And I don't know, you know, there were bits and pieces along the way of my early childhood that laid the foundation for me to become a DJ. One other thing was my mom used to take me down to a place called Funk-O-Mart, and it was in Philly, and you go down the steps into a dark basement, and then it opens up into a whole record store. But there was also like, you know, fluorescent glow in the dark pictures of the zodiac signs with like chicks with afros and different sexual positions. So I used to be a little bit embarrassed because I'm in there with my mom. You know, I would occupy myself looking at the records. My mom had wax. She listened to Stevie Nicks, you know, Fleetwood Mac, stuff like that. My first albums were like the Grease soundtrack, Rocky soundtrack, Really Rosie. You know, I actually used to play records on this little record player, big headphones, going to sleep. But yeah, like I said, there were little bits and pieces that were giving me a taste here and there of what direction my life would go in. I didn't know, you know, I would just be Too Tough all of my life and be an actual, you know, scratch DJ. I idolized people like Jazzy Jeff, Cash Money, you know, Spin Bad, Lightning Rich. They were like superheroes to me. So when I finally did get a chance to perform at events with them, it was like, you know, heaven on earth. Hip hop, you know, it's been everything in my life. And I'm really grateful to be on the show with you, and I'm more grateful to even be alive today. We made it through a lot of sticky situations down in the danger zone, you know.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. So, given that Philly has, in my opinion, if not the best, among the best DJs of all time, what, as a kid and as you're growing up and getting in the game and studying the artists that were coming before you, what, and now as you look back, what made Philly just have this onslaught of just relentless, amazing DJs? Like, how did that happen?
Well, I had to tap in myself. Before I met Yo-Yo, I didn't know anything about any DJs. Now, we used to get little, you know, we used to get cassette tapes that were like third generation copies of Jazzy Jeff at the Win, or Lightning Rich, you know, scratching some break beats or something like that. And we would copy these tapes. And that's how I basically learned how to scratch. Other DJs were doing it at that time. As I said, Cosmic Cab, Jazzy Jeff, DJ Cash Money, him and Jeff were called the Twins of Spin. And it was just kind of local at that time. When Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince got the deal for He's the DJ, I'm the Rapper, me and Yo-Yo were walking down South Street, and there was a DJ battle going on in Tower Records, and it was Jazzy Jeff, you know, the release of the album, and they had the turntable set up in there. They just released the, like I said, He's the DJ, I'm the Rapper album. I went in, I entered the contest, I won the contest. It was sponsored by Jive Records and Elise. They sent me a Elise sweatsuit. It was too small, and a pair of Elise sneakers that were too big. And I got to go on WDAS with Mimi Brown for, you know, 45-minute scratch set. I had heard Cash Money go on the radio before and do the famous echo scratch. You know, we all in Philly, we used to wait around to press record with our tape deck for the Lady B Street Beat show. You know, and other times that they would have special stuff with Lady B on Power 99, they would have just DJs on there scratching. It was a heavy influence. Maybe it's something in the water. I don't know.
Okay. So then what made you and Ice Dog from the Tough Crew, what made you and Ice Dog such good friends so quickly?
Ice's girlfriend was the prettiest chick in the neighborhood. And she used to live right across the street from me. So he used to go there frequently. So when I would, you know, I used to have my speakers on the third floor with the windows open and the speakers facing out the windows. I wanted the neighborhood to hear how I was improving on my, you know, cut and take the train and shit like that. So, you know, I used to always see him. So he was sort of a hood celebrity. I did a graduation party for one of my classmates, and LA Kid and Ice Dog came into the party. I wasn't the DJ for Tough Crew yet. And they performed with me cutting. It was like a huge moment in my life. You know, I DJ'd for Tough Crew, and that was the direction and goal that I had in my head. and to actually have it happen at a little party, little house party as a precursor was just, you know, a little bit more passion for me to go and chase the goal. It's been a great ride, man. You know, Ice has always been one of my Ice was like my staunchest supporter to open the door to get rid of the other DJs who were there. I mean, I basically showed and proved. You know, I had to battle a couple people to even get into position to have a chance to be the DJ for Tuff Crew. So, you know, I'm famous for the 8 bars. I'm even more famous for the 16 bars. But those 8 bars, when it comes to the break, that's my time. You know, I don't get to say shit on the album anywhere else. So when those 8 bars come at the break every time, I'm trying to go off, you know, and I was able to perform admirably on most of the albums, you know, and I had never scratched I'd never gone to a studio and scratched over top of a track. It's a little bit of a placement, you know, you got to be precise. Not to toot my own horn, but I practiced my ass off, you know, and I got real good from 85 to 88. And at 88, I was probably at my peak.
Okay.
And Ice was a big, you know, Ice was one of the few people in Philly who had enough balls to be a rapper. Back then, there wasn't 700 rappers. You know, everybody on your block wasn't a rapper with an album coming out. Back then, there was probably only 30 or 40 in the entire hip hop industry as a whole. You know, so it took some balls, you know, to want to be a rapper. It wasn't really an established career path at that point.
Yeah, definitely. So as you're getting into Tuff Crew with Ice Dog, LA Kid, and Tone Love, how would you break down kind of what each person did or what their roles or personalities were?
LA Kid was a master of the beats. I didn't know anything about making beats, just like I didn't know much about scratching. All of that knowledge came quick, and it came from just being around it constantly. We had a 707, we had a RZ1, Casio RZ1. We only had this much sampling time. Bite this, but bite this. You know, it's 4 buttons. My manager booked Ultramagnetic to come and do a show in Philly. He had also booked Shantae, Milk and Giz, and a couple other, you know, Steady Beat, people like that. And we used to do local shows here, and he would put the shows on, promote them, and, you know, we would get paid off of our own events. Ultra ended up staying for about a month. So we hung out with Kool Keith and Said G. They got the knowledge from Paul C. They came with a SP12. We never saw it before, and we were basically passed the torch, you know, on how to sample and make dope shit from Said G and Kool Keith from Ultramagnetic. Another, you know, who would think? You know, I wouldn't think, because I'm listening to MC Ultra, you know, practicing how to cut, and then maybe a month or 2 later, I'm actually in the basement with them. So amazing, you know, crazy.
And that was on the Fan Jam album, right?
Yeah, they did. Well, we had 4 albums. Fan Jam. We had 2 singles before Fan Jam, Get Smart and Philly Style, which were kind of terrible. And then, you know, we did Fan Jam. That had Kicked the Ball and B-Boy Document on it. And that whole album was co-produced by Ultramagnetic and Tuff Crew. It was 6 songs by Tuff Crew, 2 by the Crown Rulers. And obviously they had a hit on there. We was a little bit salty that we were underwhelming on our first album. So, you know, by the time we had the chance to have creative control over our own music, that was when, you know, we decided to put our efforts into the Danger Zone, you know, Danger Zone album. We made songs like Open Field Attack, Smooth Momentum, you know, Bound to Ike, Let It Rip, and of course, My Part of Town. You know, that was the last song that I had to lay scratches to, My Part of Town. I didn't know what I was going to cut on it. So I went home and I was looking through some records and I found the Curtis Blow, you know, so damn, sounded crispy, sounded good. And, you know, I went the next day and did the cuts, and yeah, the rest is history. Very, very grateful to have been able to. I did those cuts standing on milk crates on top of a baby grand piano. You know, it was real high, so I was like standing up. Memorable, very, very memorable. You know, I didn't think that the scratches that I recorded that day were gonna, you know, last 35, 40 years on a timeless song. We didn't know. We knew it was a good song, probably the best song on the album, but we didn't know it was going to take off, you know.
Yeah. Well, before we get to that, let's go back to Fan Jam, because a lot of questions there. With first of all, with getting with Said G and Kool Keith, given that they, you know, Ultramagnetic, I think, is still super underrated, but at the time, they had some hits in the rap world and people knew who they were. So as you're getting to know them, as you're in the studio with Ced G and Kool Keith, like how was their mentality and what they did different from what you had already seen?
As I said, we were basically doing stuff with drum machines where the samples were already in it. We couldn't sample anything. One time I remember the first time that they showed us how to sample on it. Well, he took the bass and then he had the snare, but then on the third pad, he had the open hi-hat and the snare. So it was boom, boom, cat, boom, boom, cat. Oh shit. I was ready to pass out. Like, we didn't fathom that there was enough time to sample a whole loop. It's early on in the game, even with the MPC 60, there was only 29.3 seconds worth of sampling time. And that was in 92, 93. But they did dope shit, like they would take a piece of a James Brown horn, and then they would put it into the multi-pitch. We're watching him play it. He's playing the drum machine like an instrument. We went to the Latin Quarters and we saw Ultramagnetic perform, and it was incredible. I met Kango Kid for the first time. I saw DJ Red Alert break Eric B. and Rakim's I Got Soul. He broke it that night, played it for the first time from a demo or something like that. And if not for Ced G and Kool Keith, TR Love, Mo Love, and that whole Ultramagnetic South Bronx clique, we wouldn't have got plugged into the deal with Warlock. Now, we didn't have that much control. When I say deal, it was our label's deal. We were young, we were kids. We would have did it for free, and we basically did kind of do it for free anyway. But we just love to do it, especially I love to do it. It was a challenge for me to become the DJ for a group that I looked up to. And it's been a challenge for me to just stay relevant, because I start to feel like I'm getting old. I keep on telling people about my part of town, and that's like 30 years ago. So it's always good to stay up to date, plug back in, stay relevant.
Absolutely. So then speaking of labels, what and whose label was So Def?
So Def was Tony Mitchell's label. He was not only the CEO of the record label, but he was also our manager, which is sort of a conflict of interest. But hey, we're going for the gusto. We just love hip hop. There wasn't a lot of, we signed the contracts at midnight in Mitch's house, zero lawyer. I don't regret anything that happened. It kind of made us work harder, kind of like not getting royalty checks like we were supposed to. So Def signed a distribution deal with manufacturing distribution deal with Adam Levy from Warlock Records. Also on that label was the Jungle Brothers, Little Susie, a group called Hostile. Before that, they had the Fat Boys. It was called Tin Pan Apple Records. So going to, Adam was like the gangster. We didn't know that Adam was a, gangster. He was the first dude to get some kind of sentence to time for bootlegging records and stuff like that. So, hey, we like gangster shit, but maybe not when we're the ones being gangstered, but that was kind of like we were third, fourth party to that. We never really we might have met Adam once, but we weren't, rubbing elbows with Adam. It was us to Mitch to Adam, and that's how the money came back down to. So if it actually trickled back down to us, hey, we were fucking lucky.
Okay. So then with Fan Jam, I was always intrigued on many things. One, why and how did it end up to the Crown Rulers were also on this project?
A show occurred where Steady B was performing at Woodrow Wilson High, which is a high school in Camden, New Jersey. The Crown Rulers were from Camden. Nobody ever heard of him before. I never heard of him before. He walked up to the side of the stage and sat a $100 bill on the stage and asked Steady B to battle him. Stead didn't battle him. He moved on and they left. But he talked to me on the sideline. I got his number. I had just gotten my feet in the door to be the DJ for this group. I didn't really know what to do with a new rapper. So I gave his number to Mitch. And I know that he was dope, but I didn't have the outlet for me to do anything with him. I was just learning, like I said. So Mitch ended up signing him to our label. and he proved to be, you know, so outstanding. But the shit that he was letting us hear, we gave them 2 songs on that album, so we didn't have to wait. His timing was really good. You know, he showed up at the exact time that Ultra came along, and I guess my timing and Tough Crew's timing was good as well. You know, the Crown Rulers kind of faded away when Pooh went to jail, and he's still in jail. But they've left, you know, they left a legacy. Kick the Ball has been, you know, redone by the High and Mighty. Shout out to my boy Mighty My. And it's kind of like a, you know, a classic B-boy document, you know.
Yeah, those 2 end off the project pretty strongly.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Raps with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the street. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.